Hey, welcome to Interpret Nation. In this video, I'm going to continue my analysis of Jean Grey 2017, and we're looking at issue 1 today. I'm just going to talk through some of the frames and how it reflects what I think the sort of allegory and deeper meaning behind the symbolism in this comic book is. And in the previous video, I talked about how I think that the Phoenix in this series, especially now, represents sort of the re-establishment of female power, returning to its sort of former glory like a phoenix. It is also the idea of her ego, her needing to face her own furies and learning to control herself. I said also it is sort of also a representation of the sort of spirits, madnesses we would blame women for unjustly. This is hysteria and sort of psychological problems, obviously, that the sort of made up weird psychological things we used to blame women for to oppress their power. This is a great reflection of that in a character like Jean, someone who is immensely powerful if only she could control her ego, her phoenix. Her drawback is that she is too powerful for herself to control. I think that is an amazing allegory about women, and how people are afraid of their power. So now, getting into the analysis, let's look at a couple of frames. I want to start with, so first, we got some frames here that basically, the intro frames are basically to establish the predicament that she finds herself in, and that's essentially sort of what this issue is for with regards to the rest of the series. The writers actually want to establish the problem of the character that needs to be solved with the rest of the events in the plot. So what we see here is there's a little distraction happening here, trying to convince us that the Phoenix is not Jean Grey. Jean Grey doesn't think she is the Phoenix. She's sort of laying out how different she is to the Phoenix, why that's her, why that's not her. And then this is sort of starting to unpack things. I like this frame particularly, and I will explain it to you in a second. What's happening here is Jean has run away to Tokyo. She's trying to get some headspace to think about her problems, and she has used the little demon, I believe this is Nightcrawler, who can teleport to arbitrary places as long as sort of he can see them, or there's some kind of weird rule to where he can't teleport. But anyway, he can teleport, and he is a demon, described as a demon here. And the reason this is ironic, she is running, is because she's running from her demons, essentially, you could say it that way. She's running from her demons, but in order for her to do that, she must invoke a demon or involve a demon to accomplish that. So, in a sense, she cannot get away from her demons. This is what this is expressing. The running away from the demons causes a demon to be invoked, thereby not escaping you from your demons. And the reason I like this from that analysis is because it reflects what it is like to have psychological problems. You cannot run from them. Psychological problems cannot be run from. You cannot run from yourself. They're showing that she has problems she is ironically not able to run from. That's just my view. Moving on, what happens next is she runs into some sort of bad guys, and she needs to stop this essentially wrecking crew. These are clearly guys with wrecking balls who are robbing somebody, I think, and they're causing all kinds of destruction, and she needs to stop them. Wrecking ball imagery being important here. Now, what she does is she's not in full control of her power. She's still very young. Obviously, this is to reflect that she's not fully in control of her ego, of her potential. There's a drawback. She cannot use her power to its full potential. It's reflected here physically by her challenging the bad guys and being all flimsy about it, throwing them around, destroying people's property. You can see here she breaks a window. So the irony is the wrecking ball crew she's trying to stop the Wrecking Ball crew, but her stopping is actually causing wreckage to happen. Thereby, the limitation she's facing actually perverts her efforts into what she's trying to save people from. Very interesting way to paint the picture of what it looks like to not be in control of your ego. It will pervert your efforts into the very thing you're not trying to achieve, because it will make you selfish, it will make you short-sighted. That's the kind of thing that will happen. This is what's happening here. She's not able to solve the problem because she's not in control of her powers. There's a lot more I can say. I think I'll save a little bit more for some later videos, but I'll do the broad strokes in this one. What happens next, as far as an interesting sort of framing event and friction with the rest of the expressionistic styles of the comic book, what happens here is she persuades somebody to run away to safety by first trying to force on her happy feelings. You are directly feeling happy, you must get that I am good, by injecting these feelings directly into her. But she sees that that isn't a response that elicits action. She must invoke this woman's fears in order to get her to move. And this for me is another reflection of how what it's like to deal with psychological problems. It doesn't help feeling good, trying to just feel good about them. You are to face the ugliness, and here we see Jean shows an ugly version of herself. Ironically, what she needs to face is the ugly version of herself, which is why I think this is a great frame. She needs to face this very ugly version in order to move herself to safety, essentially. Then the next, I think, important event is that she actually meets the Phoenix. For the first time we meet the Phoenix, we see how it involves itself with Jean's life. She actually here meets the Phoenix for the first time, and the Phoenix, very importantly, the Phoenix mentions that, she goes, just brutal. You're a beast when you're pissed off, almost urging her aggression on. So for me, this is clear that it is her ego. It even sounds like an ego. That's obvious. And the ego is invoked here, the Phoenix is invoked here to me because she becomes overconfident, essentially. I mean, that's what the ego says. This is the frame that shows her overconfidence, bursting with female aggression energy, purple flashes. This is why her psychic power is represented in pink. It is a representation of female energy being useful in the world, moving things, changing objects, warping her world around her. And the next time we see her, it is when she becomes cruel, when she becomes overly cruel, she becomes too aggressive towards somebody. And that's in the parking lot when she's trying to track this guy down who she's chasing. And what happens then is she actually threatens to give him a headache, and when that happens, she becomes overconfident essentially, or too aggressive in one way, and the ego snaps in and starts trying to motivate her into doing what she doesn't want to do, which is hurt the person instead of save them. And that's when she finally faces the great, big, grand, big, scary, flaming, insurmountable, unconquerable ego. This is what we're supposed to see, and you can clearly see the Phoenix is shouting out, Jean Grey is Jean Grey is Jean Grey. She's showing that all of the versions of Jean Grey, every single version, even the ones you don't like, the ones you don't want to be, that is you. You are facing yourself, is this declaration. Let me see if there's another one. Oh, another thing that's pretty cool to realize is that they also make the idea that the ego is a distraction and a limitation on Jean very obvious, because the only times she is struck down or the bad guys get away, there's always this sort of negative progression in her effort when the Phoenix steps in, and that's also another way to say the ego holds you back and unsolves your problems. We can see that here, for instance, when she finally confronts the guy and she can take him down, but the ego distracts her and then he runs away. You can see he runs away here. The next time we see it is when she finally finds the dude, the ego steps in, she faces the Phoenix, and then we see the guy actually gets away with the money and she wakes up having passed out at some other point, failing again because she was distracted. But yeah, anyway, it's clear to us the Phoenix is established as the problem. My guess is the Phoenix is her ego and all the other nice things I said it was. And I think that's about it for this edition, this video. I think I've covered enough frames for now. Bored you guys enough with it. Hope you liked it. Leave some comments if you have something to say. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. Cheers, folks.